Let's start off by having a look at the beats, what I did in that area. I usually start with the beats. In this case, it's a very simple beat. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tracks. And as you can see, at least 1, 2, 3 of those are actually loops that I found and dropped in and maybe edited a bit. I'll have a look at that in a moment. And the other ones are a little thingy from Battery that I bounced down to an audio track, a cymbal, a closed hi-hat here, and a bit of the loop of the original Duende track of the early 2000s, because it had that very specific groove that I really liked about the track. So I took a bit of the original and dropped it in there also. Let's have a look at the kick drum first. Well, might as well just play you the beat section first. It's very simple. It's got a kick drum, and that is a kick drum I found in a sample pack, I believe. I did not make it myself. I did not do any complicated layering, 2 or 3 kicks. I just found the kick and I used it because I liked it a lot. But I did use a little EQ and compression on there, and also a little gain staging. Let me just grab this plugin that I use for that. The Sonymous Saxon, I like using that to make sure that my original samples are not exceeding 0 dB and thus clipping. I don't want my samples to clip, because if your samples are clipping, that is a bad way to start. If it clips, then make sure you can lower the level of your sample, because clipping can get you in all sorts of trouble, especially if a sample needs to go into a plugin, then into another plugin. If it clips at this stage already, you're off to a bad start. Let me see how this kick drum was doing. See? It is actually clipping. It's in the red here in the VU meter. So what I usually do is use the Saxon to drop it a couple dB so that it's on 0 dB. But apparently in this case I just used the utility plugin for the gain staging. So anyway, that's a very nice plugin to use to do your gain staging. If you make sure none of your samples are clipping, then you get a nice, clean, solid mix, and that'll save you all kinds of trouble later on in the mixing stage. So anyway, that is the gain staging. I did use a little EQing and compression. I'll just turn this up. This is what I usually use, an audio effect rack containing an EQ and a compressor. In this case, it's the glue compressor, but usually I just use the stock compressor, like the Ableton Live compressor. Without these EQ and compressor, the sample sounds like this. Let me turn off the compressor. So it's got a lot of high end, and it's very MIDI pointy, and I did not really like that, so I boosted a bit of low end and rolled off a bit of the high frequencies. Used the low pass filter for that, and also the high shelving filter. So this is a lot sweeter, this is a lot creamier, if you will. After that, I used a bit of compression, even though it's already pretty pointy and snappy, but I wanted to add a little more of that. I wanted to emphasize the snap of the kick a bit, so you get this. There's a tiny subtle difference between the two. I liked it with a bit of gain reduction on the glue compressor. The glue compressor is very nice to add a little snap to certain sounds. So after that, the cymbal. This is just from a loop, without the EQ and compression. It's clearly not a very clean sample, but just rolled off some of the very low end and used a tiny bit of compression. I didn't even use any compression, didn't need any, to be honest. So those two together are this. Let's go to the next video and look at the loops that are in the beats section.